Welcome to episode 206 of the weekly shared security show. I can't even talk.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's a new year. But joining me are Father Time and Baby New Year co-hosts
Ooh.
Scott Wright and Kevin Johnson.
Can I pick Father Time? Because that's how I feel.
I made you Baby New Year, Kevin.
No,
just because
no,
you're a
it's the other
little
way
younger.
around. It's the other way around. I understand I'm younger, but I feel really old.
But can Father Time really be in that role if he doesn't even stay up until midnight? Like,
Ooh, good point. Good point.
Did any of us stay up till midnight? I don't know. We're recording this before the new year, but maybe in a week or so you'll find out if we actually stayed up.
Here's my year-end prediction.
Oh.
I'm not staying up till midnight.
There you go. There you go, folks. We'll confirm that in about a week here. But how you guys doing?
Good.
pretty well.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the fact that I just found out that the IRS officially has the stance that if you've stolen property during the year, you have to declare it on your income or return it.
I saw that. That's
I
actually
saw it
real.
on Twitter, and I thought this has got to be a joke, and it's not.
It's not
the
a joke.
IRS actually has. I want to know what giggling happened as they were writing up that rule.
I thought somebody tweeted and said it had something to do with Al Capone. And the gangsters in the 1930s or something.
Yeah,
right?
It wasn't Al Capone that started it. It was they used it against Al Capone. There was another gangster, I can't remember the name now. And what I found interesting, and I've not read enough into it, and we're not on Facebook right now, so I'm not officially a lawyer. But that it doesn't violate your Fifth Amendment rights. Is what the Supreme Court Justice said. And I've not read the argument why. Because in my head, again, not a lawyer, it feels like it would, wouldn't it? Like you have a right not to incriminate yourself, but writing to the IRS and saying, hey, I stole this stuff and it's worth $1 million, so tax me, seems like it would incriminate you.
You would think.
But neither here nor there.
You would think. But so we have a couple of topics for our first episode of 2022. And before we start, I think I just wanted to quickly mention, and some of you in the security community have probably seen this and are well aware, another version of Log4j was released, 20.17.1, and it fixes a new remote code execution bug. And it's very, I'd say, controversial, wouldn't you say, Kevin?
I don't think controversial is right.
Yeah, what's the right word for that?
Stupid, I think.
Stupid?
Is right.
Yeah.
Let me be very clear. It is absolutely a problem. If it's a problem in such that if you have the ability to write to the config, you can inject remote commanded execution. And a lot of people are like, oh, so if I have admin rights, I get admin rights. No, but somebody rightfully I don't remember the person. They posted a link that said, hey, look, VMware is vulnerable to this flaw, and it's vulnerable to the ability to remotely write to the config. So yes, this is a problem. My issue is, and I admit my bias, check marks.
I was just going to say that your favorite vendor, Kevin.
My favorite vendor. If people aren't aware, I regularly tell people don't buy check marks. They are an unethical, lying company that their software is crap. My opinion. But they announced it and then hyped it, and they even rewrote their blog after being called out repeatedly for the hype. This is a case of, and I hate when we do this. We as an industry do this all the time, and that we jump on the latest thing, right? Oh man, Log4j is a problem. Let's all look at Log4j and find every single place where the Log4j developers screwed up, and then beat them up for it. I don't see a lot of InfoSec. I don't see check marks donating money to help fund the development of Log4j. I don't see checkmarks actually helping solve the problem. I see checkmarks using it to chase the ambulances and sell their product. And again, unethical, crappy software. Hate them.
Yeah. So yeah, it's we'll have links in the show notes, but actually there's some pretty good Twitter threads with some memes that you might get a little bit of laugh out of. But Yeah.
And it is a problem. The Log4j people have acknowledged, yes,
It's
this is
rated
something
as
wrong.
a moderate as
Yeah,
well, like a
I'm not
6.6.
even sure I'd go
So
that high.
this is not like a major priority for
No, no.
organizations.
And all seriousness, the JNDI technology
Yeah,
is designed to do this, right?
that's
Like
right.
it's a naming system.
It's a feature.
Right. It calls resources, and resources can be executable code. That's just the way it works. I'm not saying it's not a flaw. I'm not saying it's not a problem. I'm not saying it's something you shouldn't look at, but it is how the technology works. If we don't and this to me is rife with the problem with InfoSec, how often we don't understand the technology we're yelling about.
That's right.
And that's the fundamental flaw. And this is why I say that security people should come from technology people, not just be security people. Because way too often we yell and scream about the thing that is wrong without understanding what we're talking about. And we'll talk about that in a second when we talk about LastPass, because it's the exact same thing I saw.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's talk about LastPass. So there was another. Well, I know LastPass has had issues in the past. That actually kind of rhymes. That's really weird.
That's
But but there was some incidents that users were saying that their master passwords were compromised after they had received some email warnings from LastPass saying that someone had tried to use their password to log into their accounts. Of course, LastPass came back and said, they didn't have a breach. This was most likely, credential stuffing.
well. If
That
I
had
may,
happened. Yeah,
it's slightly different because a lot of people are saying that it was credential stuffing and that LastPass said it was credential stuffing. And LastPass did originally say it was credential
they
stuffing.
did.
They also came out and said that as far as their systems can tell, nobody was successfully logged into by this. But most importantly, in my opinion, the part they said toward the end of their blog was what they found out is it wasn't credential stuffing. It was their system alerting users when it shouldn't. So they were
That's right.
false
There was an error.
positives,
Yeah,
right? And they've tuned their system to fix that false positive. Um, I, to me, this is one, kudos to LastPass for coming out and saying, "Hey, look, we see this
absolutely.
problem," and
Yeah.
immediately coming out and saying, "We think this is the problem, but we're investigating." And then, and most importantly, in my opinion, coming back and saying,
Yeah.
after we investigated, this is the results, even though bluntly it makes them look bad,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Our alerting was wrong.
Historically, I think they've had a pretty good record of transparency and accountability. Just like you said, right? Yep, we screwed up or we did something, etc. Right? And they came forward and we're just honest about it.
Yeah,
And that goes a long way when their whole business is trust.
yeah, I'll tell you, it's one of the reasons why we use it. I've got no problem acknowledging. I use LastPass. We use it as a company. We pay for it. Right.
I use it for personal.
Just a weird little anecdote is around the time that all this stuff was happening. I wasn't really following the news, but I was activating a new iPad and I was trying to log into my LastPass account, and I got an email saying, actually, I couldn't log into my account from my new iPad. I just couldn't. It just said the LastPass login failed. And I'm going, oh, that's interesting. Do I have the right? And I go back to my phone and I check that's the right. And then I look on my email. I got an email notification from LastPass that says somebody tried to log into your or did log in, and they didn't say it, but obviously had the right password, but it didn't let them because it didn't pass the 2-factor. And it didn't do the it didn't get to the 2-factor because it was from a device it didn't recognize.
Yeah, so unrecognized device, doesn't know, you have to authorize it, everything else. I let me be very clear. I'm impressed with how well the system works. Yes, it's got problems. Yes, it's had problems. What I laughed at was the number of security people that I'm connected to, that I see the threads. I actually posted one thread on Facebook where it was like, all of your comments here make me laugh, because the comments were things like, oh man, this is, they're so vulnerable to attack, and they were talking about credential stuffing, but obviously not even understanding what credential stuffing was.
Right.
And then it was like, guys, did you not, right off the bat, if you're using LastPass and you haven't turned on MFA, you're an idiot.
That was the point I was going to make.
Yeah.
You need to have 2FA on. Yeah.
Exactly. So even if you guess my master password, which I'm not going to say you can't, it's absolutely possible for you to guess it. I'd like to believe it's complex. I'd like to believe it's long enough and complex enough and whatever. You then have to get past two-factor. And can you? Yes.
Yeah.
You absolutely can try to social engineer me into sending you the token and giving you the number that's on my phone, right? But man, just the oh my God, look at how dumb LastPass is. Posts.
Yeah. Another thing that shows how smart they are too is like after this thing, I saw Tom's note saying, "Oh, we're going to talk about LastPass." So I say, I better change my LastPass password because I hadn't really read up all the news and didn't realize it was this false positive thing. And I hadn't changed it in a little while, and could have been longer, could have been stronger probably. And I go in and I'm creating a nice long passphrase that I will remember, nobody else will figure out. And then I'm going, do I really want to change this? Well, I remember how to type it in. Did I type it in right?
Yes.
And so I did all this extra precautions. It probably took me half an hour just to get to the point of saying, okay, yes, change my LastPass password. I immediately get an email from LastPass saying, we see you've changed your password. If you need to revert it, click here.
Yeah. Did you screw up? Here you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's smart. That's pretty smart.
I change my passphrase, the master passphrase. It drives me crazy they call it the master password, but I get it, right? Like, whatever. I change it, I won't say frequently, but enough. And even though I know they send that email, I worry the same way. Like, did I type it right? Am I going to screw this up? Am I going to forget? Oh, man, I don't. And we actually, I've got recovery codes for it. I've got all that kind of stuff. And I still freak out about it. Like, oh, man, is this going to be bad? I think, and I'm not saying everybody should use LastPass. You should use some type of password safe, I think. I'm really impressed with how well they handled this. Yes, they had false positives. Yes, that's bad, for some meaning of the word bad. But dang it, I wish more companies and organizations would react the way they did. Right?
Yeah.
Here's what we see. This is what we're doing. Oh, hey, by the way, here's the update. We're going to give you all the information.
It's really well done. Agreed. What does it mean to go off the grid? Well, for most of us that are constantly relying on our phones, tablets, and laptops, it means shutting them off and doing some other activity like enjoying nature or spending time with friends and family. Now, you're probably a lot like me and struggle with turning off or putting down that smartphone because we always feel the need to be constantly connected. Listen, it's hard to go off the grid, but the good news is that there are products that can help. So that's why I recommend using a silent Faraday bag, which can instantly block all wireless signals, quickly taking you off the grid and giving you back control of your wireless devices. Check out their full product line at slnt.com, and because you listen to this podcast, make sure you use discount code SHAREDSECURITY at checkout to receive 10% off your order.
You want your organization to be secure and compliant and to have a healthy culture, but your employees' lack of awareness makes you vulnerable to data theft, fraud, and compliance penalties. It's frustrating that the boring static training content that's being used today has failed to improve employees' ability to defend against cyber attacks. At ClickArmor, we know that without using gamification, it's extremely hard to get staff to understand how to avoid threats. Our gamified simulations and challenges have provided a 50% average improvement in thousands of employees' ability to spot phishing threats. Go to clickarmor.ca/sharedsecurity to get your free gamified phishing assessment for up to 500 employees. You'll see quickly how gamified simulations can help your team be more resilient and compliant and help avoid costly ransomware and fraud incidents. Let ClickArmor help you go from being an underappreciated, stressed out fall guy to being an innovative leader who's the catalyst for greater productivity in your organization.
So this next story I was looking on Reddit in the privacy subreddit, and the title was "We all knew that newer cars are terrible for privacy, but to what extent?" Being the owner of a 2018 Honda, I decided to look further into their privacy practices, and I guess I was like, no one should be shocked that the car companies, because of all the tech that's in newer cars, I mean, they're collecting a ton of data.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely a ton of data. And hopefully everyone knew this, but there is a device in newer cars called an event data recorder, or I think it's EDR for short. It's kind of like the little black box that an airplane has, but in a car for recording telemetry data, speed. Did you have your seatbelt buckled in a car accident and things like that?
Lots of incriminating stuff.
Well, which ironically, I also read that law enforcement actually has devices that can access that information in a car crash. So, just not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that we have that technology now. What I found disturbing, though, in reading the comments, that people were actually considering and showing people how to cut the antennas out of their cars because of these concerns, even though you could opt out of a lot of this. Like Honda gives you an 800 number you can call, you can opt out of certain things, right? They give you some tools. But what's funny is once you start like disassembling things, you obviously void your warranty, number one. And number two, it cuts access to other things. Like people are saying, well, this might disable my stereo system from actually working.
That's no big deal.
I don't know.
That's one comment said something like, if you don't care about the radio, just cut the antenna, right? And I go, well, you buy a brand new car, you don't care about the radio? Well,
I'd also point out that like cutting the antenna the radio uses is probably not sufficient since the car has a SIM in it.
Yeah.
It's using the cellular network, which I got to assume is a different system than the radio's antenna. Maybe they're connected somehow or whatever. I'm not a car person.
But keep in mind, we're going to learn a lot more about this as many of the hacks happen that we predicted. This year.
That's right. We did say more car hacking. So
I this is one of those things. I'm of a mixed mindset. I am happy that people are becoming more aware of the privacy and everything else like that. I do still stand by the idea that there are levels of privacy I'm willing to give up for the benefit down the road.
And we talk about that all the time. That's right.
And I personally am all in on autonomous vehicles. I've got the beta on my car. I love the fact that in the morning I pull out of my neighborhood, I turn it on, and it drives me to work. And
I have a tiny little concern with what Kevin's saying. Just tiny. I totally respect Kevin's right to say, I don't mind giving up a bit of privacy, and you shouldn't either, right? But I think one of the things I worry about is people who actually say, well, yeah, Kevin says privacy is not so bad to give up a bit of privacy, but very well how to manage the risks.
Yep, absolutely.
And a lot of people don't.
I want to be clear. I'm not saying it's okay to give up privacy. I'm saying I'm okay giving up that privacy.
That's what I wanted to clarify.
I'm glad you clarified it because I'm talking very personally. This is Kevin's opinion about Kevin's privacy. And that's why I say I'm glad people are starting to pay attention to this. I'm glad people are starting to think about it. And I think that for every single person, they have to make that decision on their own, right? What is it worth to you? And for me, because of the fact that I'm into autonomous vehicles, I want cars to drive themselves. I recognize a large number of negatives there. I recognize huge problems. The fact that law enforcement can grab that information at a wreck also means that law enforcement can grab it when there isn't a wreck.
Yeah, right? And it's not just that sort of micro context, but think about if you're making this kind of a decision on what amount of privacy you're willing to give up. Think about a lot of different things. What about your job? Say you work as a contractor and you have top secret clearance, to access military secrets and stuff. You could easily be targeted. And as when a nation state wants to target you, they have unlimited resources and they will probably get at you some way. And so if you're actually giving up that kind of stuff from a privacy protection point of view, you could be making it make it easier for attackers to get to those kind of things.
Yeah. You have to think about, and we've talked about it before, right? Humans suck at risk assessment.
Oh, completely.
Right. And I'll acknowledge the fact that I suck at risk assessments, right? Like I look at it and go, man, and say, no big deal. Give up my privacy. Everything's fine. Here's everything about me. At the same time that I complain about what the government does with that data. Like, yes, Honda collects it. Do I trust Honda? Until I built my Tesla, it was every car my family had. Still is every car except for the Tesla, right? We've joked for years that we're a Honda family. But I am okay with Honda having it because I know they have it. And I know that they're selling it. I know they're using it to market.
It's going to happen with every car manufacturer. Exactly. So it's just unavoidable from the point of view of the technology and the means to collect and use that data. I found two things kind of good and bad. One of them is I actually like their privacy statement that was linked to in that Reddit post. It's pretty thorough. It goes through all the things that you would expect to see in a privacy statement. So they're not trying to duck stuff. But on the other hand, being as transparent as they are, you can see very clearly they may use your data for marketing or third-party sharing or all kinds of stuff.
Right.
And just because they have a privacy policy that looks nice doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be friendly to you, right?
Yeah. Well, and who else has access to it? Because Honda says they use that data, their third parties use that data, right?
Yeah.
As we talked about, what was it, 2 weeks ago? We talked about what the FBI says they can get from messaging systems. Now let's look for what the FBI can get from your car. Let's get right.
Yeah. One of the uses that they talked about is a long bullet list of making your product better, improving service, and the last one is as otherwise permitted by law.
Yep.
Like in other words, anything we want.
Pretty broad. As long as the government hasn't said we can't.
Just something else I'll point out too is in Canada we often actually some of the legislation points to a set of principles created by the Canadian Standards Association, or the CSA. It's called the CSA Model Code for Privacy. And it's got 10 principles that are laid out really nicely and really clearly. I use them when I'm doing privacy consulting. And it's a good way to do a checklist and say, did you say what you're going to be using that data for? Are you actually using it for the things that you said you were going to use it for, right? Not a lot of things there are related to security. Most of them are about transparency and control of the person's data.
Interesting.
I like it.
Yep. So our last story of the week, an Amazon Echo owner was left shocked after Alexa proposed a dangerous challenge to her 10-year-old daughter. So this 10-year-old, she had asked Alexa to tell me a challenge to do. And she replied, the challenge is simple. Plug in a phone charger about halfway into a wall outlet and touch a penny to the exposed prongs. And the father apparently was right there and started yelling at Alexa, no. That was the mother was there, but yeah.
Same guy that was yelling that Alexa's an idiot for telling his kid that reindeer can't fly.
So what's interesting about this, besides the horrific challenge that was given to this child, that these voice assistants are pulling information off the internet or sources from the internet. And those sources may not be, let's say, safe or vetted sources of information.
Well, and it says, I found this on the web, right? Like,
yes. Yeah. But, again, and of course, Amazon had this was reported to them. They took some action, apologized, all of that. But, it goes to show, and I've noticed this too. If I'm asking Alexa a question, she will often give me very interesting or completely wrong information that I've
Yes.
asked for. So
Yeah.
something to be aware of.
Very, very strange. I mean, just the whole concept of you asking the internet to tell you what you should do.
Right? Who would
What do you
thought anything would
expect?
go wrong? Yeah. And I did like some of the comments that the article called out. One user said, "You have to disable the kill my child setting in your Alexa settings."
I thought it was also interesting. There was one post in there of somebody posted a picture of a UK power plug where the prongs are
Yes.
actually plastic when they're
Yes.
halfway out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wouldn't have actually been a rust. So I guess the thing would be, you could tell whether you're in the UK or North America by testing it with a penny.
Here's my question. Okay, we know that the headlines are about Alexa being awful and everything else like that because it's a name and everything else like that. But here's what I've often wondered when I use the devices at my house or whatever, and I get, like, I ask it a question and it gives me the answer of, I found this on the web. It never seems to find this on the web on a website that I understand how it came into the results. like it's never, here's what, Wikipedia, like it's websites that it's like 4 people use. So I want to know what search engine we're using.
How do they rate the authority of the sites that they're using?
Yeah, because it's not Google, it's not DuckDuckGo. It's like
some obscure
I've actually done the same search on like, I've gone to the website, like to a search engine and searched, and I never find those websites. They're never in the results I get. At least not.
It's a deep state affiliate program.
Yeah, that's what I want to know. I want to know what search engine they're using, because it's a messed up search engine.
Well, it may not be a search engine at all. It could be an affiliate program. You sign up. I'm the authority on dogs. And when somebody asks a question about dogs, they go to your website.
I never thought about that. Now, I have seen, like, I've been invited to answer questions for the Amazon Answers or whatever it is. And I've answered a couple questions because I thought it was funny. And I answered them, as far as I know, correctly. I didn't try to say, stick a penny halfway into an outlet. Like, man.
That will just not end well.
So I wonder if that's where the eating Tide Pods came from. Was Amazon Answer.
We could have a whole episode on TikTok challenges.
TikTok challenges. We probably should.
Those.
It'll be fun.
By the way, did you see the movie? It just released on Netflix called "Don't Look Up."
I've not watched it yet.
I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. It is exactly what would happen if a comet was heading towards Earth to destroy us all. Nice. That's all I'm going to say.
I will also say that if you have not watched the Book of Boba Fett, do it now.
That just was released yesterday?
Oh, not yesterday, but yesterday as we're recording. Okay. It was last night. My wife and I watched it, and
it's good.
Yes. I think that even if you weren't a massive Star Wars fan like me, you would like it. But I will tell you that some of the callbacks, some of the it was fun. It was a good 40 minutes.
Is it on the level of Mandalorian? Good?
Better.
I
actually liked it better.
You're going to hear first, folks.
No.
Better than Mandalorian. Okay.
I loved The Mandalorian, but similar to WandaVision, similar to a number of these shows, they start out slow because they're building a new thing, right? Like, there's no backstory already. Whereas the Book of Boba Fett has the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian as its backstory. So they were able to start with, they didn't have to introduce Fennec, right? We knew who she was. We knew who Boba Fett was. Whereas all of the other shows, like them, dislike them, whatever, they started slower because they had to introduce people. This didn't, and so it started hot and heavy, I guess is the way to put it. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. That sounds inappropriate now that it's come out of my mouth. So, but yeah, it was a very enjoyable show. I'll watch Don't Look Up
Yes,
this
please do.
weekend.
Very good. Very good. All right, guys. Well, let's I think that's all for this week's show. But thank you both. And thanks everyone for listening. Happy New Year, by the way, to everyone. We hope that 2022 is better than 2021.
It will
It
be.
probably won't
Yes.
be, but
It will
you
be.
know,
No, it'll totally be better.
we're really going to try. So
We'll do
all right,
everything
everyone.
we can to make your 2022 a better year.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to everyone next week. That's all for this week's show. Visit our website, sharedsecurity.net, for all previous episodes and to sign up for our email newsletter. Looking for Shared Security merch? Be sure to check out our online store at store.sharedsecurity.net. Don't forget, you can always find us on Twitter at SharedSec, and please hit that like and subscribe button below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for another episode of the Shared Security Show.